there's a lot of talk about fake news. We hear that word a lot. It's kind of a buzzword, fake news. And so sometimes it can be hard to sort through fake and fact and just to sort through all of it. So we took a poll and just online, and we said, this kind of had to do more with the president and the fact that he works closely with a lot of his family members. There's a lot of fake and fact when it comes to that, it seems. So our poll question, do family members working at the White House hurt the president? We put it out there. You responded. 77% said no, 23% said yes. David, what do you make of these results?
Well, not necessarily surprising especially if it's a pro-Trump crowd out there, and this is part of the issue in this country. You know, we're so divided. There's this parallel universe. You know, you put that to the Washington, D.C., New York, Acela Corridor crowd, and you're going to get a reverse of those numbers. And so I think that that's part of the reason for Faith Nation, to let that voice be heard. Look, there's a lot of Donald Trump's base out there that says he's doing just fine. And what's the problem with having the kids? The kids are competent. Last time I checked, right? They were only apprentice after now, but they're competent. And so, what's the problem with that? Though I do think there needs to be obviously some checks and balances in that, and you can't have the look of inappropriateness. So I think that's a big part of it.
It's all about optics.
Optics.
Another buzzword we hear a lot. Well, Amber Strong, she looked into this a little bit deeper. Go ahead and watch this.
Hello, Facebook friends. So I have a question for you. Have you ever been scrolling through your Facebook timeline or perhaps your Twitter feed and you saw an article or a headline that made you stop and say, well, that can't be real? And I'm not talking about something outlandish. I'm not talking about 30,000 Martians land at a Taco Bell in Arizona. No, I'm talking about a headline or an article that just is a little bit slanted. Well, we here at Faith Nation are here to take the guesswork out of the articles in a new segment that we like to call Fake or Fact. Recently, there have been bipartisan calls for Jared Kushner, that's President Trump's son-in-law and senior advisor, to step down. There's been criticism all along, but the renewed scrutiny comes after revelations that Kushner was in the room during Donald Trump Jr.'s meeting with the lawyer with Russian ties last summer. Now, Kushner has been a key part in forwarding the president's agenda, particularly when it comes to negotiating a Middle East peace agreement. Nevertheless, critics say none of the Trump children should be serving in his White House. So, fake or fact? Is it uncommon for a president's family members to be a part of his administration? For answers, we went searching and found presidential historian Tevi Troy. He says history is full of examples.
Bobby Kennedy was campaign manager for John F. Kennedy, and he got the role as Attorney General. There's some indications that John F. Kennedy was a little uncomfortable with it, and that his father, Joe Kennedy, pressed him to have Bobby as his Attorney General, and even made the argument that when things are really bad, you're going to need to have someone you can trust. According to Troy, the practice was criticized then, too. Well, not only was there criticism, but interestingly, later they passed anti-nepotism laws, so the president could not appoint a cabinet secretary who was from his own family. Now, about that 1967 law, apparently Lyndon B. Johnson signed it over what some say was his immense dislike for Bobby Kennedy. Others say it was to limit nepotism in lower levels of government. However, there are loopholes. One way to get around it is for a family member to refuse a salary. The other way is for a family member to take an advisory role. A 1993 lawsuit accused Hillary Clinton of violating the rule when she was asked to lead a task force on health care. But a federal judge dismissed the idea of a first lady being a government employee, and that same ruling also said the 1967 law doesn't apply to roles within the White House. So there you have it. When it comes to whether or not it's uncommon for a family member to serve in an administration, that would be fake. So tell us what you think. Do family members help or hurt a president, particularly when it comes to this president? Shoot us your comments right down below, and we'll read them right here on the show. For Amber C. Strong at Faith Nation, I'm going to toss it back to you, David and Jenna. David, will Drew Brody be hosting next week?
Stop that, Amber.
You know he could. He is so talented. This is David Brody's son.
Well, I appreciate that. We'll send the check later on. Amber, after that comment, we may need to eliminate the C. Amber Strong. Goodness gracious. Hey, by the way, speaking about fake or fact, or fact or fake, all of that, I thought it was interesting that Donald Trump is now calling CNN, and he did this a few weeks ago, actually a month or two ago, fraud news network. And there's a difference between fake and fraud. You know, fraud implies deception. And I think a lot of what the media coverage can be about is deception. In other words, the actual story itself may not be fake, but the way you present it could be very deceptive and therefore fraudulent. And so I think there's a fine line between those two, but just something to think about, at least I have, over a good buffet.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, complete with a lot of carbs and sodium, right?
That's right. I'm a big fan of carbs.